Okay, so welcome to live session number 135 that I hold every week here on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And yes, this is live 135, which means that for 135 weeks, I am here talking about a subject related to the engineering qualification validation in Australia and other things related to engineering and jobs in engineering. And tonight I'm going to talk about the common questions during the validation process here in Australia. But first, for those that don't know me, my name is Gerson Ida, and I'm the founder of the website www.engineersinaustralia.com, a website that I created to share information about the validation process in Australia and other things related to engineering, and also about how to get your first professional job as an engineer here in Australia. And also a reminder that in March, starting on the 6th of March, I will promote my free online workshop. I want to become an engineer in Australia. And in this workshop, in just 1 week, you will learn everything you need to know to start your validation process here in Australia. And if you want to register to the workshop, I will copy and paste the link so you can register for free. So just copy and pasting in YouTube, also in Instagram, and I'm going to paste in Facebook. Just going to try to find the comments in Facebook. Yeah, looks like Facebook is playing up a little bit, for me at least. So I'll put in my iPad. So www.engineersinaustralia.com/free workshop. So you can register for free. Okay, so let's get down to the content now, and I will share with you some common questions during the validation process, especially the ones that I receive from you guys, from engineers. And also during my workshop, a lot of people, they send me a lot of questions, and I will be covering some of them tonight. I've got probably about 60, 70 questions that I received every time. So obviously tonight I'll be able to answer some of those. And I hope that this information help you in your journey to your validation. So one of the first questions, it's about how to choose the best experiences for the career episodes to match with the competencies. That's a very common question. And also reminding, if you have any questions, please put in your comments. So how to choose the best experiences? Obviously, one, you need to list all your experiences in your engineering experiences. And two, the best experiences will be the ones that will match the definition of the occupation according to the ANZ SEO occupation definition. ANZ SEO stands for Australian and New Zealand Standard Classification of Occupation. And this is from the Australia Bureau of Statistics. And those occupation definitions, they are used by the Department of Home Affairs or Immigration Department. And Engineers Australia, they use the same definition to categorize the occupation that you're going to be applying for. So if your experience does not match with the ANZ SEO occupation definition, obviously it's not a very good experience. What else can you do to choose the best experiences? It's important that the experiences, they cover different periods or different aspects of your engineering journey. So, and also that those experiences, they should be complex in nature. Why is that important? Because if the experience is not complex enough, remember that, well, some of you know, others may not, but you need to address 16 competencies, 16 competencies required by Engineers Australia. And if the experiences are not complex enough, you may struggle to address all of the 16 competencies. Obviously, there are much more things that I could be talking here, how to choose the best experience. But the intention is not to give a lot of details, obviously. The intention is to cover more questions so you are more aware of what you need to do to start your validation process. The other question about experiences is it safer to write career episodes based only in education experience rather than work experience? That's another very common question as well. Obviously, this question is for those that they have both. You can just use education experience, engineering education experience if you don't have work experience, or if your work experience is not good for your career episodes. You can use just engineering academic experience. But if you have both, if you have engineering academic experience, also engineering work experience, is it better just to use the education experience? I myself, I just used, when I did my process back in 2005, 2006, I just used work experience because I had a lot of work experience, so I could choose 3 experiences that were good for my validation process. But some people, they are just graduated, fresh graduated, so they don't have work experience, or when they worked in their home country, the work that they performed didn't really quite match the ANZ SEO occupation definition, so therefore they need to use the education experience. So you need to evaluate, is my work experience a good enough experience according to ANZ SEO occupation definition? If it is, probably better to use your work experience. But if it isn't, obviously, you don't really have a lot of choices. You may need to use education experience. I think there is some. I think there is one question. Yeah, there's one question in Facebook from Mohammed Zain Al Abidin. Sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly, Mohammed. So the question is, civil engineers can be assessed as structural engineers based on academic project CDR. Yeah, that's a good question, Mohammed. Here in Australia, civil engineers, they actually, especially in when you get your CPEng or your RPEQ here in Queensland, the Registered Professional Engineer of Queensland, a lot of the structural engineers, they actually the base education was civil engineering. The only difference is that they obviously their experience in the reports, they are mainly in the structural engineering. So as a civil engineer, if your experience is related to structural, obviously you can be recognized as a structural engineering. And you ask based on academic project CDR. Well, if you're using just your academic projects, let's say, for example, I'm a civil engineer myself, and I remember some of the subjects related to structural engineering. So perhaps if you use the experiences, perhaps the ones that you did for bridge design and structural analysis, all the other reinforced concrete, pre-tension uh, pretension concrete and steel concrete, steel structures, etc. So especially the analysis. The design of structures is important for civil engineers as well, but the structural engineering, and you need to have a look at the NZ SEO occupation definition, is more related to analysis, structural analysis. So it's not just the structural design, but it's the structural analysis. So you need to just be careful what experience you're going to use to be able to validate as a structural engineer. So have a look at the ANZ SEO occupation definition and make sure that your experiences they align with the structural engineering. If not, apply for civil engineering. The other question from Clint. Thank you very much, Clint McKinley. Do EG prefer working experience over academic? EG, I'm assuming you want to say EA, Engineers Australia, I believe. Well, for Engineers Australia, there's no preferences. Engineers Australia does not require work experience. If you use just education experience, is okay. If they prefer work experience over education experience, I can't tell you. They probably prefer an experience that aligns with the ANZ SEO occupation definition. So regardless if it is a work experience or if it is academic experience, as long as they match and you can address very clearly and very strongly the 16 competencies that they require, it should be all right. Just going to see if is there any other questions in other platforms. No questions in YouTube and no questions in Instagram. All right, so I'll keep going with the other questions that I've got here. The other question that's very common, what are the steps to validate the engineering degree? So that's a very common question, obviously. I'll try to be very succinct. In my free online workshop, I talk in very much detail all the 6 steps for you to validate your engineering qualification. If you haven't registered to the free online workshop yet, the link is in the comments. You can just click on the link and then just put your name and email address and you will be registered. And don't forget to make sure that you check your email inbox just to make sure that you got your confirmation email. But what are the steps to validate your engineering qualification? There are 6 steps. The first step, and this is all from the Engineers Australia Migration Skills Assessment booklet, so it's not me saying, it's Engineers Australia booklet. My information is pretty much all within Engineers Australia booklet. I just digest and give you guys a little bit more digested information because a lot of people they ask me, and obviously because I understand the process very well. So the first step is your personal information, and personal information is your basic documentation, your photo, your passport. If you change your name because of marriage or change of name document, you need to attach the document. And also your CV, it's in this first step, and also your English test results. So probably this step is pretty much straightforward. The only sticky point is English test results, because you've got to have the minimum score for all of the 4 bands. And the 4 bands, listening, reading, writing, speaking, and IELTS, for example, minimum of 6 in each of the 4 bands. If you're doing PTE, a minimum of 50 in all of the 4 bands. Step number 2 is to choose the category and the occupation. So the category, there are 3 categories there. First category is professional engineer. Second category is engineering technologist. Third category is engineering associate. There's actually a 4th category, which is the engineering manager, but this is just for migration purposes. If you ended up approved as an engineering manager, you are not eligible automatically for a membership with Engineers Australia, because according to ANZ SEO occupation definition, engineering manager falls under the category of manager, not under the category of engineer. And also in step number 2, you need to choose your occupation. If you are going to apply for civil engineer or mechanical engineer, chemical engineer, environmental engineer, etc. And there is those that code for each of those occupations. Step number 3 is your academic documentation. So a copy of your bachelor degree and your any other relevant documentation like your academic transcripts, and also if you've done any other specialization courses or graduate certificates or graduate diplomas, even your master's degree. And those documents, if they are not in English language, obviously you need to attach the translation to English done by an authorized translator. Step number 4 is your evidences of your skilled employment. So if you are going to use work experience as your career episodes, you need to attach a copy of your reference letter from your employer or former employer. Also, if you're applying for the Relevant Skilled Employment Assessment, RSEA process, you also need to attach the reference letter as well. So, and the booklet talks about what you need to have in your reference letter. Step number 5. Step number 5 is your reports. So there are three types of reports. The first report is your CPD, your continuing professional development, where you're going to include a list of your learning events. And then the second type of report is your career episodes. And for that, you need to write 3 career episodes talking about 3 different experiences, mainly covering different aspects or periods of your engineering journey. And the third type of report is your summary statement. The summary statement, there's actually a template in the Engineers Australia website where you can download, and it will have all the 16 required competencies, and you will have to complete why you believe you've achieved those competencies, and then indicate where in the career episodes are the evidences of those competencies. And then step number 6 is your application. So online application, you go to Engineers Australia website, you create your Engineers Australia ID number, and then you fill the blanks, you choose the category occupation, you attach all your documents, you upload your reports, you pay the fee, and then you submit, you click the button to submit. And then you just need to wait. The assessment period can take anything between 20 days up until 3 or 4 months, depending on if you pay an extra fee to speed up your process or not. So in a nutshell, these are the 6 steps to validate your qualification. The other common question, just going to check other questions there. All right. The other very common question during the validation process is, can I do the process from my home country. I'm not in Australia, and if I can do this process from, let's say, Brazil. I'm from Brazil, and my audience, majority of my audience is from Brazil. And where are you guys from? I'm interested to know. So I know that from the names I can see some names already. Where are you from? And what type of engineer are you? Are you a civil engineer like me, or are you a mechanical engineer or mining engineer? Are you from Brazil? Are you from um, Colombia? Are you from Argentina? Are you from India? So we'll be interested to know. So the question is if you can do your process from your home country, especially because the borders just reopened now, and but still the airline is still crawling and trying to get everything back. So if you are in Brazil, or if you are in India, or if you are in Argentina or Colombia or Indonesia or Philippines, the good news is yes, you can do your process from your home country. Everything is online. You can well, the application from with Engineers Australia is online. When I did my process, it was all paper based. I had to put in the mail, but nowadays is everything online. Even translators, you can find translators here in Australia or even in your home country, and you send them the document, the scanned copy, and then you get a translated version. Your English test, I believe you can go to a test center in your country and then sit for the test. So yes, you can apply and you can do the whole process from a home country. You can be validated while you are in your home country, and then if you wish, if it is your plan, you can then apply for your migration visa while you are in the home country, and then if you are granted a visa, then you can come to Australia with a visa, especially a permanent visa, which is the visa that majority of people they obviously after. Yes, Felipe from Brazil, civil engineer. Yes, if you are applying from your home country, the fees that you're going to pay to Engineers Australia, there's no GST. GST is goods and service tax. So if you are here in Australia, you pay 10% tax, which is a GST. If you are applying outside of Australia, then you don't pay the GST, which is 10%. Yeah, thanks very much. Construction management or even advanced diploma in civil design. And the question is, can I use those events as CPD? And the answer is yes, you can. As long as those events, they are somehow related to engineering and the engineering experience. After your graduation, you can use them as your CPD. Even management, you will see that there's actually a competency in as part of one of the 16 competencies, which talks about engineering management or management of engineering projects. So you can use those. There are competencies that talk about communication, that talks about record keeping. So there are some courses that you do that even though they're not directly related to engineering, but you will see that it does relate to some of the 16 competencies. So if it relates to the 16 competencies, it means that it is important for your validation process. So therefore, you can use them in your CPD. A question in YouTube, thanks Felipe, apart from the transcripts, is it necessary to attach the description, ementa, of each subject? Usually not. Usually, Engineers Australia will not ask you the translation of the content of each subject. Ementa is in Portuguese. Usually they talk here about the curriculum description of the subjects. Usually Engineers Australia will not ask you. One, because majority of people that apply, they have graduated from universities that they are accredited by the education ministry in their home country. In Engineers Australia, they usually don't ask that, but potentially they could if they have a look at your curriculum. When I say curriculum, is the academic curriculum, the content and the subjects. And if it is too different from the curriculum, academic curriculum of the course that they are trying to assess and recognize, they might ask you the content. Especially some cases, sometimes engineers, they start in one faculty or university and then they change and go to another one, or the faculty is closed and they ended up then or the faculty is bought by another faculty and they ended up starting with one university and finish with a different university. In those more complicated cases, Engineers Australia may ask you a copy of the ementa or the academic curriculum, the description of that, and understand that it can be costly because it can be dozens, if not hundreds of pages that you need to translate. All right. We almost coming to an end of this session. I might do other question and answer sessions because there's so many questions that I have here, and you guys also probably have more questions. So the other question is, I actually got a question today. Somebody that said to me that he is 44 years old. He's got lots of experience. He's a production engineer. He's got lots of experience in robotics and mechatronics, etc. And if he would be suitable for validation. So there are two things that probably we need to clarify. One thing is the validation of your engineering degree, and another thing is the migration process itself. I am not a registered migration agent here in Australia, so I cannot give migration advice. So, but I understand that there are limitations of age for you to apply for the majority of migration visas. So if you are 44 years old, you're probably getting very close. I think it's 44 or 45 years old, the limit. So it's a very good idea to talk to a registered migration agent and prepare a migration plan as soon as you can, and do your validation and apply for your visa straight away before you probably turn 45. And don't know if you will have time or not, but I know that there are some age limitation. But for the validation process itself, there's no age limitation. I actually have a student of my mentoring program that last year he was validated, and he's more than 60 years old. So there's no limitation in terms of age for you to validate your engineering qualification. He's got already a permanent visa because of his daughter. He's got a parent visa. So age was not a problem for his visa and was not a problem for his validation process as well. But if you are 40 or 44, nearing 45, urgently talk to a registered migration agent and explore your options there. Okay, so I think I'll finish because I try to keep these live sessions to half an hour. I don't want to take up much more of your time. And I would like to thank you guys very much. And I think that next week I will repeat this live session with the common questions, because Obviously, you guys had lots of questions, and I've got here many questions as well. Just reminding you that on the 6th of March, I will start my free online workshop. And the name of the workshop is I Want to Become an Engineer in Australia. And if you haven't registered yet, the link is in the comments. So if you are in YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, I put the link for the registration in the comments. You can go there and register for free. Just need to put your name and email address and confirm, and you will receive my email confirmation. So I would like to thank you guys very much, and I will see you next Sunday, 8:30 p.m. Brisbane time in live 136. And my commitment with you, I will repeat this live session with more question and answer sessions. Okay, thank you very much, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.